Hey guys, so welcome to Trey Chic. Welcome to our Happy Hip series. And during this series, I'm going to show you guys how to stretch out your hip flexors, how to mobilize them and get them working properly. If you're sitting in a chair all day, we're going to start with a very small ball, same size as a tennis ball. Okay, and this is just going to help you fully extend those hips and get as nice and open as you possibly can. Okay, so we're going to start out by finding our psoas muscle, okay, which is going to be our longest hip flexor muscle. All right, and it sits very, very deep into the abdomen. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're going to find that position. So what you want to do is come along your abdomen, right along where you feel like your obliques. And you're going to start to feel where the muscle and the tissue and everything else kind of gives way, okay? So as you're pressing down, you can feel how you can get really, really, really deep, okay? So it's going to be closer along the oblique area, okay? So once you find that spot in your body, on your abdomen, you're going to lie flat on top of the ball, okay? I'm going to place my hands right underneath my chin as a rest. And then I'm going to just breathe nice and deep. We're going to do 5 deep breaths here. Okay? 5 nice deep breaths. So big into the belly and blowing out, sinking out. Big into the belly and then blowing out, sinking out. All right. And then as you can see, I'm going to start to move. All right, here, all I'm doing is doing tiny, small circles. We're going to do clockwise as well as counterclockwise, okay? And right after we finish these circles, okay, make sure that they're nice and slow. Then we're going to come into what's called Sphinx position, okay? And what we're going to do is place those forearms in close to the body, okay? So that's going to be where we go next, all right? Forearms are close into the body, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to lift my chest by pressing my forearms into the floor, trying to lift my chest up. Now, I want you to progressively watch me as I progressively get higher throughout this as my psoas and everything begins to relax more. So right here, I'm so close to the floor. And honestly, guys, I could barely breathe. Like, I was really struggling to breathe here. All right, but I'm going to come down. I'm going to take a deep breath again, and then I'm going to blow out slowly as I come all the way up, pressing my forearms into the floor. And as you can see, I get a little higher. I am getting a little higher. I could actually feel my shoulders sink away from my ears more. And by the end of this, I'm actually going to get like all the way up. It's going to be insane. Pressing into the floor. Yep, look at that. Look at that. Like, that's so much higher than I was before. And I'm not going to lie, my psoas is really tight. So I really appreciate this hip series. It's really helpful for me. And I decided to do my right hip. Sorry about that. So I decided to do my right hip because my right hip flexor is usually the one that's the tightest. It's very restricted. My right hip flexors, I should not say one because there's multiple hip flexors in general. But my right hip, usually it's a lot more tight in that front side of my body, and the interior side of my body, my right hip is much tighter. Okay, and all that means is just the front of your hip, okay? If your front of your hip is really tight, this is a series for you, okay? So after we try to come up, right, all we're doing is pinning the tissue. Just think about it, it's like stretching dough. That's what we're trying to do for your front of your hip, okay? Just kind of stretch it out. We pin the tissue down and we're just pulling the tissue apart to stretch and elongate that front pocket of your hip, all right? That's very, very important. And that reason why is that it's very important is because you're sitting in a chair all day most of the time. Think about how long we spend seated at work. Now look how high I am at this point. I'm like literally all the way up, which I could not do that at the beginning. Yeah? Okay, that's not a dramatization. That's like actually where I started out. Okay? And so now here we're going to be using this ball to just roll up and down the full length of the hip. I'm going to start at the very top right where below my hip bone, okay? So if you touch your hip, you're gonna start right below your hip bone, and then we're gonna do some circles here as well. And then we're gonna make our way all the way down, to the knee, okay? All the way down to the knee. So if you have a foam roller, feel free to use a foam roller. The smaller ball is really for like those hard to get places. And we just want to make sure we use something a little bit larger to address the massive tissue that goes down all the way down the hip, okay? So starting right below the hip bone, and we're going to get to the middle of the hip there. And we just want to start to break up that tissue right there, okay? All right. So once we place it right below that hip bone, all we're going to do is we're going to do those same clockwise and counterclockwise circles that we did last time. And as opposed to lifting our chest like we did during the psoas stretch, we're going to actually flex the knee, right? So, and when you flex the knee, you're going to feel all that tissue just pull itself down and away from the hip, okay? And then we're just going to make our way a little bit further down. We do the same series. We'll do our circles, yeah? And then we'll pin the knee down, and then pin the hip down, and then we'll flex at the knee, okay? All right, and so after we're done here, I'm just gonna use this ball and I'm gonna keep rolling. I'm just gonna use the ball instead of going to grab a foam roller, because the ball is large enough to really address like all the tissue of my knee. So I'm just gonna do one more pass on the lowest part of my hip before I get into the quad, and then I'll just roll the quad with the ball, just as you would a foam roller, okay? So I'm really not saying anything here, just talking about not being able to find a foam roller. So now I'm just going to roll up and down, all the way up and down my quad, okay? Because I want to address the hip flexors. I'm not going to go all the way down to the base of the knee, okay? All right, guys, so that's the foam rolling portion, all right? I will be back with you guys and show you guys how to do these stretches. Yeah, see you in the next video.